unmute. Make sure your microphones are mute, and I'm sure if there's a question, Hannah will be happy to answer it. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you very, very much. It's wonderful to see so many of you this morning, bright and early as well. So that's really fantastic to see. And thank you, because I'm sure there's lots of things that you've got going on in your lives and in your day. So we really appreciate the fact that you're able to join us this morning. As Ms. Taylor introduced, I am Hannah and I have come from Whizz Education. Your children will probably know a little bit more about kind of maths Whizz rather than kind of Whizz Education, but the company name is Whizz. I'm just going to share my screen with you. And as I said already, at any point, if you have a question or anything like that, please do you can do a little raise hand feature, or if you want to pop something on the chat. I'm sure the ladies will kind of keep an eye on that for me, just in case I miss anything. But please do feel free to kind of ask questions at any point. So I'm here today to talk to you all about how Maths Whizz works at St Mary's Catholic Primary. So my role is an education success partner. Essentially, that means that I partner up with schools. So I'm partnered with St Mary's to kind of offer support, whether it be kind of technical kind of bits in terms of logins, but also kind of looking at kind of how we can achieve the best outcome for your children in terms of maths. So my background is I have been a teacher for over 11 years. I was an assistant head and inclusion lead, and I then joined Whizz Education. Bear with me, the clicker seems to be a bit slow. So this just shows you kind of a little bit about who we are as a company. So we have over 20 years of experiences partnering with schools to create those kind of outcomes with children. We recognise that every school is different, that it's not kind of a one shoe fits all, and that's why it's so important kind of having that relationship. You can see kind of how widespread we are. And that we tutor over 1.5 million children across the globe, from kind of the States all the way over to kind of Thailand, UAE, and we've got lots and lots of schools in the UK as well. What our core belief really is, it's all about kind of that every child deserves a learning experience that is catering to their individual needs and pace of learning, and that's what's really, really important to us. So the Maths Whizz suite is actually made up of 5 different elements that work together to help with kind of maths attainment in schools. So the teachers have their area where they can look at the data, so they can see those children who are finding particular areas tricky, and it will then complement what they're doing in class with their children. So whether it's kind of, they've noticed that one particular child is finding place value really tricky, that can be something that they might want to target a little bit further, or they might notice actually, I'm looking at my whole class and they're all finding fractions really hard, particularly when it comes to kind of finding fractions of amounts. So let's focus on that next week. They might want to use it to kind of target a particular area. So this is kind of the topic focus area. So when used as part of homework, which I know that St Mary's really like this feature as well, is that they can actually say, okay, next week we're looking at pencil and paper addition in class. So I'm going to set that as part of their homework, so that they just got a little bit more confidence building. They're feeling really good when we come to do it in class. It's also a really great way for you as parents to know what's coming up. And it might vary sometimes at St Mary's. I know sometimes they use it as a kind of next week we're doing this, so we'll have it as homework the week before, or they might have it as, we did this week and the children didn't really understand, so I'm going to set it as Maths Whizz for next week just to kind of consolidate. But generally I found, working in schools, that a lot of the time parents were saying, we don't always know what they're doing, we want to be able to help them further. So this is a really great way that you can actually hop in and see kind of the things that are going on at school for you. We know kind of in terms of teacher wellbeing that kind of anything that can support that is really helpful. I'm sure you parents agree after kind of homeschooling over lockdown. There's a teacher resources section as well here, which just kind of the teachers can use to supplement what they're doing already. Maths Whizz is in line with the national curriculum, so it's in line with everything that'll be happening at St Mary's School already in terms of maths, and the kind of the topic and whether it's suited to the year group. So they're not going to provide kind of lessons that perhaps it doesn't meet the child's kind of learning need at that point. We also have parent accounts, which are all included within kind of the suite, and it it's included to you, don't need to pay any extra. And that just gives you an opportunity for you to kind of see what your child has been learning about. You can send them a lovely kind of message to kind of get them going again, just to say, you know, great work, or I can see that you've done your homework. A little bit kind of Big Brother-esque in that you can actually see, have they done their homework? They might, especially for the older children who say, you know, they've been upstairs on their laptops or whatever it might be for 45 minutes. You can actually check whether they've completed the task that they needed to do. So it kind of works both ways. You can also, it gives you an indication from the point of assessment as to kind of what the progress they've made since that point. And it's shown in a maths age, which we'll talk about a little bit further when I go through the assessment process with you. And then it moves on to the Maths Whizz tutor. Now, the tutor is very intelligent, so it is an AI that sits behind the platform. When your children have done the initial assessment, it will look at and give them a particular maths age, and it doesn't just give them a maths age as a whole, it also gives them an individual maths age for the 16 areas of maths which they have been assessed in. So that's really, really helpful. And the way the AI works is it then will spit out the next lesson will be what your child needs. So if they're, for example, working at age 6.5 for, say, measure, then the next lesson they'll have will be at that age 6.5, so that they're able to do it, they can feel confident when doing it, and that they can do it independently. That's the kind of the main kind of drive behind Maths Whizz as well, is that they can be an independent learner. It can be very tricky as a parent and as teachers not to help your child. We all have that as teachers at moments where we kind of want to sit on our hands to not try and give them the answer, but it's so beneficial to not help them, because it means that then it will kind of skew the algorithm, and so it will then give them harder questions to answer, and it might make them a little bit disengaged. It's okay to kind of to support them in, perhaps if they need support with going over what the question is asking them to do, that's absolutely fine. We find that kind of the tip with it is if you ask them a question, then it means that you're probably not giving them the answer. So that can kind of help a little bit when it comes to supporting. Feel free to ask, are there any questions at this point? I know there's one that's popped up in the chat. Oh, I've got somebody else joining. That's great. Let me just check. Okay, fantastic. So how do you access the parental account? Do not worry, I'm going to come to that bit and I'll show you exactly how you do that. And I'll go over it a couple of times because I know sometimes with these things, we can go very quickly. So do not worry, I'll show you that. So that's not a problem. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so on the next slide, I'm just going to walk you through how the assessment process works. So when your child starts on Maths Whizz, before they can go on to anything else, they do the assessment process. And that lasts on average around 40 minutes. You can see here an example of what it looks like. It's not particularly kind of exciting at this point. It's quite plain. It's almost a bit like a test, and it's pictured in that way as well. So the best way to do it is to do it kind of in a test scenario, so that it's kind of quiet, and like I said before, that you're not helping them. And generally we say best practice is that this takes place in school. Just means that they can kind of be in the zone, everybody else is doing it at the same time. On here as well, you can see that there is a button at the bottom which says don't know yet. And the children are encouraged that if they don't know the answer, that's absolutely fine. We don't want children to feel worried or anxious or anything like that. They can just click the don't know yet button, and then it will move on to the next question. That's absolutely fine. Each time they're answering it, the algorithm behind it is looking at what question they give next, so that it's set at the right level. Before they start the assessment, the teachers would have put in their date of birth, and that will show kind of their chronological age as well, so that the questions that are pitched to them will be at their chronological age, and then it will adjust depending on their maths ability and how they're finding it. So on average, it lasts about 40 minutes. They go through each of the 16 areas of the topics, depending on their age. So younger children might not, for example, be assessed in algebra because it wouldn't be relevant. And it will kind of work through each area. And after each of those main areas are finished, they can then pause the test before moving on to another area. And you can see once they've completed the assessment, they win some credits and some gems, which is very, very exciting, you can imagine. Gems, also known as diamonds and rubies as well, that you'll see kind of a little bit later on. So they win some credits and some gems, and they get to the really exciting part where they can create their avatar. Children tend to really love this bit, as you can imagine. They can kind of look at what kind of crazy hair they'd like. They can even choose their eyes and all sorts of things like that. They then have some credits where they can spend those in the play zone. You'll be pleased to know as parents that the play zone is unlocked only after 15 minutes of using the tutor. So it's not a case that they just go on there and they can play games. So it's unlocked after a period of time. It's important that they have that element as well, because it gives them that kind of that reward at the end of kind of that hard work as well. And it keeps them really motivated to be using it. I think a lot of our children that I've spoken to have said that this is, you know, they see it as a game. They said it's the best maths game they've ever played, which is wonderful, because that's what we want the children to be feeling, that it is something that's really enjoyable and it's exciting. So at the end of the assessment, this is what the teachers will be able to see. So it will show them kind of the grey bar takes them up to show their assessed area for each part. So for example, this child you can see is age 6.64 for place value. For properties and number, they're the same. Fractions, they're a little bit higher. They're doing really, really well on paper and pencil addition. They're kind of looking at kind of 8.5 in terms of their maths age. So it doesn't tell you what their chronological age is for this child, but it's just showing from the assessment, they've assessed that they're working at a 6.64 for place value. They're working higher for pencil, paper and addition, and much higher for subtraction as well. So it looks, as you can see, quite a jagged kind of profile for their maths. Ideally, what you want to have is kind of a well-rounded, so that you're kind of getting them as close to kind of the center as possible. I think the way to think of it is really, you can't build a house without kind of the foundations, and it's similar within maths. It's very difficult to build a really confident, competent kind of mathematician if you don't have those place value skills there, for example. So it's trying to kind of, the way that the algorithm will work is that it will, from this point, so the grey bar is showing from the assessment level. And if I click on now, this shows when using the maths tutor, the blue is the progress that they've made from that initial point. So they've started, the assessment is this red line here, showing the point that they were when they were assessed. Then when they're using the tutor, the maths tutor, it's taking them further along and it's increasing their maths age, which is fantastic to see. And you can see how now it's getting to the point that you're getting to kind of, they're all getting closer to that overall maths age of 8.66. You're not going to completely round it off, and actually it's quite good to have some strengths in some other areas, and children will kind of, you'll often see that in the classroom, that you'll have some children who find, say, multiplication a little bit tricky, but they're really, really good at shape and space, and that gives them a little buzz to be able to show their peers how to do certain things. That's really lovely to see. Just got a question here. Yes, you will be able to see this profile, so I'll be able to show that as well, and that's all on the parent account. So I'll show you how you can use that. And that's really great for at home, so that you can know which are the areas that they need a little bit of further help with. Were there any kind of further questions on this topic graph? I know sometimes I can see it straight away, but if it's new to you, it might look a little bit strange and there might be some questions that you have. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask? I'll just flick through to see that we haven't got any.
I just had a quick question. Does that update? So like they obviously do an assessment when they first go on to Maths Whizz. So then as they work through the lessons or whatever they're called, does it then keep updating based on how, you know, the progress they're making, or do they have to go through a full assessment again for this to update? No, not at all. So lots of schools will do the assessment kind of in September, and they'll do it every year. You don't have to, because actually the way that the algorithm's working is it's assessing the child all the time. So I'll kind of go through in a moment the structure of the lesson, and you'll see that actually they're having a go, and then they're doing a little test element. So that is checking to see, have they got it, have they not? So the assessment process is happening all the time. And the way that the tutor mode is kind of modelled on, it's modelled on what teachers would do, what a kind of real tutor would do, and that you would be kind of seeing how the child's doing all the time and determining whether you need to give them something a little bit harder, something a little bit easier, and that's happening all the time. So there's no need to constantly reassess. Great, thank you. No problem at all. I can see another chat that's just
So there is no app for Maths Whizz. It is all on a just on your normal Explorer. So whether you use Chrome, Internet Explorer, anything else like that, you just have to go on there, which does mean that you can use it on kind of laptops, tablets, or kind of phones or anything like that, whichever kind of makes things easier for you. I'll just click on again, apologies, it's a little bit slow. Okay, so this just shows you the lesson. So this gives you a snapshot of what the lesson looks like for your child. So you can see at the top here, this is their avatar. This is where their gems are collected. So they'll have their blue gems and their red gems, or you might know them as diamonds and rubies. And you've got along here is their usage, so how many minutes they're using. You'll get a blue, sorry, a blue line across here, which will show their blue gem collecting, their tutor usage, and then there'll be a red along the bottom, which is their replay. So that's going over old learning, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail. So as soon as they log on, they will, first of all, they'll come up with a little message which will show whether they've been using it every week, because we want to promote consistency, and it will give them kind of a congratulations, this is what you have achieved so far. And you can see there, if you click the play button just here, that takes you straight into the lesson so that they can hop on straight away and start to collect those gems. At the end of each week, this will be white and it will show 0 at the top here. That doesn't mean that there's an error or something's gone wrong. It's because we were encouraging them to collect new gems each time. So on average, what St Mary's and Mrs Egan is hoping for your children is for your child to collect 3 blue and 3 red each week. So that is the target for you to complete. You can see here that we kind of recommend in terms of kind of time. This is a goal, 60 minutes, but you can, you know, depending on your child's age, they can actually complete it in say 40 minutes. They will have done their kind of their 3 gems. They're known as progressions amongst adults, but the children will know it as gems. So you're looking for 3 or more and roughly 60 minutes a week, but please don't worry about this number. Don't feel, oh, they've only done 35 minutes, that means it's not a good week. That's okay. And we understand that actually sometimes your weeks are really busy and you've got family commitments and you've got clubs and all sorts of things. So at St Mary's, they'd really like you to focus on collecting those 3 blue and 3 red and not being so worried about time. And when it comes to the time that you're doing it, you can break that up. So for your child, it might not be suitable really to sit there for one whole session. It might be better that you do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. That's absolutely fine. And it will save. So it might be a good idea to do, say, 1 part, and then you can leave it there and then do another part. You might want to split it up into 3, and that's absolutely fine to do. So this is kind of an example of what the lesson format looks like. So it starts off with a teaching. So a bit like we would do in class is that we would model what the learning is. So you can see this particular lesson is all about tally charts. So you're modeling to the child what tally charts looks like. So you're showing in terms of this is the table, you've got kind of the titles along the top, and you can see that they're scoring it along the bottom. So it will kind of models to the child exactly what they need to do. Then we go on to the exercise section, and this is where they have a go themselves. So depending on their age, below 9, all of the text will be read to them. So if you're thinking, oh, I've got a child who's a really strong mathematician, but they're not very strong with their reading, you don't need to worry. So from under 9, all of the text will be read. Equally, if you've got a child who actually doesn't need that, they can just click OK and it will move along. Or equally, you can have the sound down so you don't have to hear the text. So that just hopefully explains that to you a little bit. Once they've gone through and they've completed all of the exercises, they then move to the test section. I'm just going to move this up slightly so you can see. So you can see here on the test section, they have usually, this says 1 out of 2. So it's a couple of questions, say perhaps up to kind of 2 or 3. And it's looking at kind of like a 60–70% pass. When they get that, they then get their blue gem. Okay, so it's kind of they're having that go at something and then they do the test section. Say if they were to get none right, which sometimes might happen, do not worry, it doesn't come up with kind of a big flashing red angry cross or anything like that. It will just simply then recognize that they haven't got it right, and therefore we need to bring it back a little bit so that they're able to feel that they're achieving it. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? I'll just have a look. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions here. So our year 2 teacher has told us 20 to 30 minutes daily. Is this too much? I think it probably depends on the age of your child. I probably would say kind of really you're looking at, if you think up to, I'd say 60 minutes is the maximum that you'd want to spend in a week. So it might be that kind of your year 2 teacher saying that it's trying to split it up a little bit and you might only do that a couple of days. So kind of what works best for you, but I'd say a maximum really of 60 minutes is enough. How does Whizz align with what they're learning in class? So as I mentioned at the beginning, the way that St Mary's do it in terms of their homework is that actually it might be that they're doing a particular area in maths that week and then it's set as homework. So it's kind of a nice consolidation from what they're learning already. And the way, as I said already, Whizz is linked with the national curriculum. So it's exactly what you'd be doing, what your child will be learning about at St Mary's. So hopefully that helps to answer those questions. Okay, I'm just going to move forward. So this shows you, as I mentioned before, as soon as they come on to Whizz into the tutor mode, this is exactly what you'll see. So you can see the avatar here. This child is a superstar because they have been rewarded for consistency. So we all know consistency is key. So it's about logging on every single week and looking at collecting those gems. If you've got a child who absolutely loves it and it's almost actually, you're not trying to encourage them to use it, but instead you're kind of discouraging them from using it too much, we kind of agree with that. And we look at kind of, instead of showing a child if they've got, say, 40 gems in a week, we will just put 6+ so that they've achieved over 6, because we don't want to encourage children to be on here all the time and to have that too much screen time, as I'm sure you parents are aware as well of. So you can see this child, because they've used it consistently, so they've used it every single week, they've been awarded the superstar. So it's just kind of a little kind of reward bit to kind of show how well they've been using the platform. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hop on to the tutor mode so that you can see a demo of what it looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. If you do have any questions at this point, this is a great time to pop them on the chat. Okay, so you probably heard that little bit that comes on as soon as your child logs on. And so here is on the demo. So you can see here, Amelia, this is just a demo account. So she hasn't been using it every week. Okay, so she is currently at a pro. So it's looking at kind of in a half term, you're trying to get kind of that usage going. If I press let's go. So you can see Amelia has actually kind of worked through these lessons already. So she's further along. So she's going on to this part now. So she's collected her 4 gems already, which is fantastic. And they're showing up here. Then what you see in this section is the red gems, our ruby reds. Okay, so the best way I find to think about it is that your blue gems are your new learning and your red gems are your old learning. So that's kind of where the replay mode comes in. Okay, so you're looking at, for the topic challenge area, you're looking at going over kind of old learning. The idea really, if you think about it, if a child was to be learning things all the time that's new, what happens to kind of the older part? It would just kind of, it wouldn't necessarily stay in long-term memory. So it's trying to make sure that you're retaining that information. So when your child hops on straight away, it is kind of pointing them to go through the blue gems. So that would be, if I click here, it takes me straight into the lesson, and that's where I collect my blue gems. And to collect the red gems, I click on that little gem part that's next to it. I'm just going to show you that again. So I've got my blue gem here. I click here next to it, and that's where I go into my red gems. Now, the way that the AI works is that it will prioritize the areas that are needed for development. So for example, here, perhaps this child is finding place value tricky. So place value is at the top so that they can go into these lessons, and they are 3/4 of a year back from where they are. So say if they are a maths age of 6, then this is going to be 5 1/4. Okay, so it's achievable for them, and they can work through these and look at kind of working on their time to see whether they can get a little bit faster each time. There's also an element here where they can challenge a friend. They might have a buddy that they want to work with that they can challenge together. In terms of internet safety, there's no further communication, so there's no chat feature or anything like that, so you don't need to worry about that. So that shows you here in terms of how the blue and the red gems work. This is where their credits are, and you can see the child has definitely used more than 15 minutes, so the play zone is unlocked. This is where I'm sure you can imagine they love putting on, choosing different clothes. They can buy different backgrounds. From a PSHE element, they can buy a pet, but when they buy a pet, they must also use their credits to buy the pet food. If they don't buy the pet any food, then it would need to go to a new home, so it'd be rehomed somewhere else. So a little bit of life lesson there as well. So that just shows you quite a bit in terms of what the tutor element looks like. I can see a question has popped up on the, yeah, so we did have a little bit of an issue a while back in terms of the crashing with the internet. That has now been resolved. I think we had pretty much everybody in the company was on that looking at it, so it's all been sorted now. But if you do have kind of any issues in terms of kind of that needs further support, you can click here, and that will, you can put some feedback in, and that will help you with that as well. And they're really, really good. The support team respond often within, say, a couple of minutes. So that's a great thing to do if you're finding that you come into some bother. In terms of the parent accounts, I'm going to show this a little bit slowly just so you can all see, because I know what it's like. You'll come away from this and you'll think, I can't remember where the parent account section is. So if I click here on the three the burger kind of menu here, okay, you can see we've got here, that's another area where you can go to the Ruby Reds, got the leaderboard, messages and buddies. If I click on the parent section here, so just a little family logo, it comes up with an area where you can register. You don't need to pay for this. It will just simply send you an email and you create a password. Okay, then you've registered for a parent account and it's linked to, so on this demo, the child's called Amelia, you can click to link to your child. Okay, that would be if you already had a parent account. So you can register and then make sure you link to your child, and then you just go into whizz.com and you can log in as a parent. Does that make sense to everybody? Please feel free to raise a hand or anything if anyone's unsure. Fabulous. I'm assuming the silence is a good thing. Okay, so another thing that you can do within that is that you can also send your child a message. So you can do this on your platform, which I'm going to show in a moment. So you can send them a little message. So for example, Amelia has got one already that just says, hello, it's Whizzy here. Just to let you know, this is where you'll get messages and stickers from your teacher or parents. So come back and check from time to time. Until then, hope you're having lots of fun learning maths. So this is kind of a sample message that you can see that you can send to your child. You can have a little sticker on there and just say, you know, Mum, Dad, really proud of you. You're working really hard on your maths. Keep it up. Something along those kind of lines. And that's in that section there. So I'm just going to show that one more time for you. So up to the burger menu here. Parent account is just down here. And you can put in your details. It will then send you a link in your emails where you can set your password and log on that way. And this is where the messages are. Buddies you can connect with, they can connect with children in their class. Again, there's no chat or conversation feature or anything like that, so that's all safe. It just means that they can compete against each other, which some of the children quite like doing as well. I can see that I've got another question. So do they earn coins if they repeat the same topic exercises? Sometimes they don't seem to. Okay, that's a really good question. They would mainly, I would say, earn coins from doing the tutor mode rather than in the Ruby Red. Is only one parent account per child? No, you should be able to have one per parent, so that should be fine. But any problems with that, if you go onto the burger menu again, you've got a section here, tell us what you think. So if you're having any kind of issues, you can pop that in there as well. See someone else is joining. Lovely, so hopefully that shows you there kind of what the tutor mode looks like. I'm going to stop share again and I'm just going to go back to here. Before I show you the parent accounts, I'm just going to share my screen again. So I mentioned already in terms of consistency. So our research has shown that students who have access to Maths Whizz Tutor for around 60 minutes per week, remember I said it's kind of really up to 60 minutes, it improves their maths age by on average over 18 months in their first year of use. So that is accelerated learning. If you wanted to check out further, there is kind of copies of our proof pack on the website, which you can have a look at, which gives you there's some great case studies as well, which just gives you that little bit more information. So it is really kind of that consistency. It's using it for kind of a good amount of time, enables children just to kind of fill those gaps that we know kind of that happened over lockdown, and just, you know, sometimes happens that there's bits that they haven't quite understood. So that shows you that there. So this section here is just showing kind of engaging with your child's learning through the parent account. So I'm just going to hop on and show you that now and what it looks like. Can you all see my screen okay? If anyone's brave enough to give me a yes.
We're still seeing the slides, if that's what we're supposed to see.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful, because that's not what I want you to see. So let's stop share there and try again. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see now, if I reset this part, you should be able to see an example of a phone. Okay, and now if I click through, so there is no app. Okay, you simply go straight onto your browser and you type in whizz.com. You can then go into your login section. This is where you're going to put your own email and then your password, which should be set already. As soon as you hop onto your parent account, you'll be able to see your child's average usage, average progressions per week. So these progressions is in terms of your gems. So remember, at St Mary's, the goal is to collect 3 blue gems and 3 red gems. So this should show you average, you'd hope, at least 3, and progressions, we're talking about gems per week. You can even look at a start date and end date. So if you wanted to look over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, year, however long, you might want to just put since their last assessment, perhaps, which usually would happen kind of in the autumn term. So you can have a little play around and toggle with that if you wanted to have a look at whether they have been using it, and have they been using it and making progress. That's the key. If I move along on here, you can see the minutes. So it gives you an indication of how long are they actually using the tutor for. And you can see here the light blue is that tutor mode where you're collecting the blue gems, and the replay section, which is shown in the key there, is where you're collecting those ruby red gems. Ideally, you want to be prioritising the tutor because that is new learning. Replay is going to be the old learning. So always prioritise the tutor. It gives you an indication of your child's actual age versus their maths age. And I wouldn't get too worried about this. Remember, you take it with a pinch of salt. It could be that on that particular day, they weren't really feeling it, so that it might be skewed and it's come down a little bit lower, or it's gone a little bit higher. So it gives you an indication of kind of how they're getting on. And you can see also there the improvement that they're making. So that's kind of that moment where you can really praise them for how hard they're working. This shows you the topic graph, so it's just another way of presenting it, like I showed you at the start, because I know some parents were kind of keen, would you be able to see that topic graph yourself? And you do have that on your parent account. So you can see the grey is showing kind of since assessment, and the green is after the assessment. So that's showing the progress that they've made. And you've got the ages down the side. So you've got maths age at the top, and then you can see the progress in the green. So they've made plus, say, 0.36. That's kind of looking at roughly, you know, just over a quarter of a year, coming up to nearly half a year's progress. So that's really, really positive. So you can see that there. If I click along here, you can also see kind of recent lessons. So say they say to you, oh, mum, you know, I did this lesson, or, you know, or dad, I did this lesson, and I found it really tricky. You can actually go in, you can have a look at how they did, and you could do it together if you like as well. So it will show you kind of the time it's taken them and what score they got. If they get something wrong or they don't know, they can click, as you said, don't know yet. Or if they get something wrong, it will give them a little bit of scaffolding. So it will actually help them and guide them to be able to get the right answer, just like we would do in class as teachers as well. So you can see this child has had no helps, but it's absolutely fine if they have had helps, because that might enable them to kind of get the score. And you can see here an example of kind of a message that you might want to send as well. This little blue button will take you to support. So if you've got any problems, or I know a parent was saying earlier about technical difficulties or anything that's going wrong, you can put that in here and support will be able to help you. So you don't need to worry about if something's going wrong at the weekend. Oh, I've got to wait until Monday until I can tell my child's teacher. You can pop it on here and support will be able to help you with that. can see a few questions are just coming through. I'm happy to go through the parent account again, if that helps. I can see people have said about the top 3 lines, and don't worry, as Mrs. Egan said, it's all recorded and it will be shared with parents later so that they can have a look. Okay, so if the child puts don't know yet, it won't take them to reception level, unless of course say they're in year 1 and actually it needs to take them a little bit further back. It's not a case of all children are taken back, it will just take them back to the next point of the learning, and then it will move them on again, so you don't need to worry about that. If I stop share again, I'll just take you back onto the tutor area so that you can see, and I'll show you one more time how to go onto the parent part. So if I share my screen here, hopefully you can all see. If I click here on the burger menu, if you go down to parents here, that's where you can set up and register for a parent login. Okay, and then once you've logged in, you should be able to then link to your child down there. Hopefully that helps. And I'll stop share there and just go back. So this is the moment where, if you've got any questions, this is now the time. Is there anything that people would like to ask? Feel free to unmute yourself if that makes it easier. Hello, do we have a question?
Hi, can I just ask a question, please? Are the children guided through the different classes? So whether it's fractions or decimals, or how do they know when to go into different ones?
So they don't need to go into anything. So this is the beauty of Whizz, is that it will guide the child exactly where to go. So as you can see, when I logged on straight away, there was just simply a play button. So the child just has to press play. So you don't need to worry about that. This is what makes it a little bit easier for teachers as well, that actually Whizz would just run. The teachers don't have to plug anything in, they don't have to do anything. And it's the same with your child. So they just literally press play and it will take them straight into the lesson.
And it will then progress them into the different sections when and as and when they need to.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the AI section of it, the artificial intelligence. It's recording what the children have done, where they are, take them to the next level, and then depending how the children are on that next step, whether they go to the next step, or whether they go back and consolidate it a little bit later, or they go on to something different. So that is actually doing all that thinking for the children, for us, to make, to guide them through. So that's why it's bespoke in a sense, because it's personalized to every child. And one of the advantages of this, and one of the advantages over it than maths athletics, is that because it's so personal, it actually in a sense plugs in the gaps. Because we as teachers, we're kind of told that maths is like building a wall, and that's how I tend to look at it. And we're building a wall, and it's how the children succeed at one level is based on how well done on the previous level. So in a sense, because maths is kind of progression and developmental, and because we've had such a disruption with the children's learning over the past few years, what we're worried about at St Mary's is there's one or two of these little bricks missing further down the school when they were in younger classes, and this is an opportunity to fill in those gaps and to go back and revise and make sure that we're not missing, because there's many strands in maths, and we need to be careful though. Place value, we do addition and times table, subtraction and multiplication are kind of the biggies, but there are different aspects of those, and they kind of they have to know their number bond, they have to know their times tables in order to be able to do fractions, decimals, percentages, to be able to do money and time. So it's making sure that this is a bespoke package that complements the work we do in school. It doesn't replace it, and it isn't always a repeat of what they've done in class. That came up one of the questions. It's about kind of working alongside each other, and some of it will be what they're doing in class. It will follow the national curriculum, as Hannah says. So it does follow the national curriculum. So everything that the package does is in the national curriculum, and how it's taught is in the national curriculum. So the methods they're doing are following the same methods we've got in school. So it's that kind of parallel going together and making the time the children spend in your care at home much more productive and linked in with their individual maths learning, as opposed to just giving them a worksheet and getting them to fill in a sheet that's kind of a bit random, or just is directed at the middle of the class and actually isn't taken into any special needs the children may have, or any particular difficulty children may have in a certain aspect. And sometimes you find that some children are very strong at space and area, but very weak in some aspects. So this gives you kind of an understanding on that. And it also prevents you giving a sheet that if you're particularly gifted in maths or particularly strong in a particular aspect, you're not just getting an average sheet that just kind of caters for the middle group of the children. So that's why it's exciting. That's why it's really good for our children. It's a response to the needs we have of the children, in the sense that the past 2 years we're filling in gaps and making sure they make consistent progress. And when you get the parent, you log in, you may be a bit surprised with some of the results. I certainly was as a parent. I'll just show you the background of it. We did some research. We were happy with maths athletics, but we looked for other options, as you know, that are always better and can be tied into where we are as a school, where the children are. And Peter Finn, who many of you remember was the maths lead here last year, did lots of research, came with lots of different ideas. We narrowed it down. We trialled a couple of them. I then trialled it as a parent with my own child, just to see what it was like, because I wanted to know if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for your children. I trialled it. I wanted to see for a couple of months, see what it was like at home, how it slotted in, how it worked, how it improved my daughter's confidence in maths. It made her much more speak about maths in a very positive way. It also enabled her to actually read problems and read maths vocabulary on the screen, and it worked really well for her. We also then trialled it with some of our year 5 pupils who had last year's year 5 and last year's year 3. Yeah, we tried it with 2 classes last year, because we wanted to see how it would fit in with what we were doing. We didn't want to launch it, and it wasn't, there was no point. So it worked successfully. We learned a lot from some of the things, the way we engage with parents, encourage parents to do it, how we could use it in school, how teachers could use it. It wasn't to their detriment, but it did enhance some of the progress the children made. We also realised we have to encourage parents to use it more often at home, which they worked with it, and that's why we're having the maths presentations now. And we also kind of realised that we have to really strongly get the point that because it's an AI program, and it is counterintuitive to teachers and parents, because you obviously want to help your children all the time, okay, you do have to make sure that you don't help them. They actually do it independently, because it is accurate to their ability. And I found that particularly frustrating as a teacher and as a parent, because I wanted to sit there and I was going, of course you know what that is, you know what that is. No, if you do that, actually you've got to really resist that temptation for it to work properly. Really, really work properly to do that. I've generated a load of questions now. That's good.
Just to answer your question, Mr. Boyce.
Yeah.
Yes, all initial assessments were done actually back in July for most classes. I think a couple of classes did fall off the wagon a little bit, but that has been done in September. Yeah,
and if there is some query about the assessment, because children do take a little dip over the summer, that is known to happen, and they're kind of on a roll on in the summer they dip. If you've got a query about the assessment, drop us a line into the school, or send an email, or catch us at the gate and things like that, and then we can always do a reassessment in school just to kind of bring it up to date. Things change, and we'll be doing a regular assessment with the children. We'll talk to Hannah about when we do that, but we have to be careful that we're not, you either feed the pig or you weigh the pig, which is a very crude way of saying it. We want to make sure we're doing lots of teaching in maths, and if we do too much assessment, can be very counterproductive. So this is an excellent way that's assessing the children all the time. It's ongoing assessment. Everything your child does on the computer, to the time it takes them, to the answers they've got wrong, or the answers they've got right, to the topics they're really good at, to the topics they need more work on. This covers it and does it really well in a very positive way. And there's lots of little time wasting, lots of rewards with the coins and the diamonds, and they move from rookie, then they go up the different levels. I had one child come in to me today and she, I'm not a rookie anymore. And she was kind of really pleased with that. She kind of saw the hard work pay dividends, and she was really happy with that. So she saw that, and that's related to how often she's on it, not necessarily how well she's done, because it's how many diamonds she's got, how often she's on it. And then the coins, they love spending the coins and creating their own little world and their own little avatar and things like that. So it's really good. Yeah, So I hope that answers Mr. Boyd's question. Can my child use resources to help solve the answers, for example? Hannah, could you have a look at answer that one?
Hannah's already answered.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
absolutely fine. Yeah, we, you know, same as in school, we'd encourage kind of using resources.
When children learn maths, it's verbally, and then it's concrete. It's called the concrete, and that's why they use lots of concrete things like beads, counting, dice. Apparatus is concrete. Anything they can tactile and use, and that's a very important stage of maths development. And what you have to be very careful of is that children are really secure in that before you move into the abstract. And children who are moved too quickly off the concrete stuff actually then don't have that grounding when they come and do addition, subtraction, division, because they can't work in the abstract because they haven't had enough concrete experience. So yes, absolutely loads of concrete stuff if you've got it there. Coins. And remember, you can teach children with using buttons as opposed, you know, pasta, you know, things like, you know, cheap things around the house. Don't kind of don't think you need to go and get counting blocks. Don't think you need to get apparatus like that. And if there's anything particularly you want, just let us know. We can source it in school. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Don't do it properly. We're just playing testing functions. Okay. So yeah, that's not a problem, Mrs. Rude. Yeah, no problem. If you think your child didn't for many reasons didn't quite have, give us a shout and we'll actually do that. Do they lose their gems, goodies in the shop? They don't lose the gems. They like real world. They spend the coins. So once they've spent their coins, it's gone, and they have to earn some more. It's a bit like life, really, isn't it, Mrs. Fisher? You know, you have to earn your money to spend it, and then it goes. But the pets one is interesting because they can go buy lots of pets. We have to keep them alive. If they don't, they get adopted out. They don't actually die, which is very. They do get adopted out. They're reminded they have to get adopted out, which is a good lesson for us all. Yeah. So if they spend the coins, they've gone. But they have to earn more coins. No, they will still. Oh yeah. Will there be a review of the programme in due course to assess effectiveness, but also how well the children do? Yes, there will be. Yeah, continuous. Yeah, we're continuously reviewing it. Yeah, we actually, you know, from the feedback we're getting for the children that have really persevered with it, and there is a certain amount of perseverance because this is a mindset where children have to learn this. That actually, when they're doing tutoring, they're actually learning something that the computer says they don't know, and that can be quite mentally challenging for children. And it's something that I experience as a parent. You know, if they're learning something new, they can't coast, or they can't, you know, when they're doing the I call them blue diamonds. It's actually gems, but I call them blue diamonds. So there is that little challenge. They are learning something new that the computer says they can't do. So, and they say, oh no, this is always, I'm always doing. Yeah, because it's telling you what you know, it's not wasting your time telling you things you already know. It's revising, it's focused on things you don't know, and intertwine it with the red revision diamonds or Stu, and they kind of go back, and the children feel comfortable playing those games and beating their times again. Yeah, so we review it all the time. Yeah. We believe it will be much more effective than maths athletics. Yeah. And it's very useful. No, thank you. That's lovely. Yeah. And
that's great to hear, Patricia.
Yeah. And during COVID, we were very fortunate. We were able to support parents who didn't have access to tablets or laptops and bits and pieces. And that also not only and we were able to support parents. And if you are struggling with you know, you've got 2 or 3 kids on one device, let us know. We can see what we can do to help you. We did do that during during lockdown, and we do appreciate if you're juggling the 2 or 3 children and your own work as well, laptop. Let us know and we'll see what we can do to help you. Okay, because we want our level best to enable everybody to get this, because it will make an enormous difference, and it won't be overnight. And you know, I think, you know, realistically, give it 6 months, and give it some time and talk about it. And if you send them the little messages, the little text messages mean something. They look forward to that. You know, well done. I saw you were doing really well in that. I saw you trying hard. It's brilliant.
So we're not focusing on time at St Mary's. We're focusing on children collecting gems.
Yeah. So
the goal for St Mary's children is to collect 3 blue gems and 3 red gems each week.
A minimum. Now we are going to do some kind of little way around that in school to recognise classes that are doing that. We're going to get some trophies and stickers, and there's going to be a little bit of a campaign to launch it off, but not so much that they think, oh, we're not getting recognised for this, so they're going to stop doing it. So the staff are going to be monitoring it. We're going to do a kind of little push on it and assembly and do it up and have some trophies and certificates as well for that. Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah. It is great. It's brilliant. And I'm very fortunate, Hannah, I don't know if I mentioned to you, that parents have match funded some of this as well. With the, it's £25 per child. And then we've actually used some of the funding we've got for the National Tutoring Programme to support the rest of the, I think it's about, we pay the rest £3,000 as a school to match funds the parents' funding for each child. So it's a good parent partnership. And I'm going to be honest, it's probably the best, well, I don't know what you're spending your money on, but it's certainly one of the best £25 you could possibly spend your money on. Definitely. It's probably 2 bottles of wine, but if you ever sat down with some children doing maths, 2 bottles of wine is probably quite a cheap option, so put it like that maybe, yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to help them either. So that, I think after lockdown, I'm sure parents are pleased to hear that.
Yeah, avoid that temptation. Yeah. I'm trying to get you out. We need 2 bottles. We do. We need. So it's cheaper. It's cheaper than and it is. It will. And over. And we're hoping this is long term. And over the years, it will do that. Oh, look at this. Yeah. Any questions or queries? Miss Taylor's here. Grab her at the gate. Grab me at the gate. Flick an email over to Cleo Lockwood in the office, and we'll respond to. And indeed, I have to say, Maths are really good responding quickly. Really good responding quickly, and they'll if they've got your email, they'll send you back something. If there's a common problem, Hannah will come back to us and she'll let us know, and then we can address it as a whole school. So yeah. Lovely.
No, thank you for coming. I hope it's all very useful and helpful. I'm usually at the gates on a Tuesday morning. So catch me then if there are niggly bits that we need to fix.
And you're around after school for a quick chat?
Yes, I'm always around after school. I'm year 1 class teacher, so if you come to the left-hand corner, I'll be around.
And also tell us how your kid's getting on. It's nice to get the positive as well. Get the positive. So if your child is really responding, or your child needs a little bit of a gentle nudge from one of their teachers, you'd be surprised how a little gentle nudge from me or one of their class teachers, just someone in school showing a bit of interest at home, what's going on with that at home, can make a difference. So the teachers will check the stuff on Sunday, because that's how the week runs, Monday to Sunday, and how they're doing. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your time this morning. I hope you found it really useful. Thank you, Hannah.
No, thank you. It was lovely to see so many of you. Fantastic turnout from St Mary's.
Really fantastic response. No, I really appreciate that. And we've got another session on Thursday at 6 o'clock.
It is, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I sent out little reminders and sent out the link via phones as well. So
so spread the message. If you do want to sit through it again, you're most welcome to.
You're welcome to come again.
We've also recorded it, Hannah, haven't we? So we're going to make that available to parents as well. Because as Hannah said, there was a lot to take in, but once you've got your head around it, it's brilliant. Honestly, it is, yeah. Thank you. Take care. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Take care.